Hello, everyone. This is Steph, founder of Host Agency Reviews. And those of you that are tuning in and watching us on YouTube, you know my background is different. And that is because I have landed in Arizona for our snowbirding excursion after a dust storm and a blizzard. We made it down. We had freeway closures in 2 states. It was very exciting. But with me today, we have Sheila Folk, the founder of Travel Industry Solutions, or TIS. So welcome, Sheila.
Hi, I didn't know you hit a dust storm too. Oh my
That
gosh.
was the last, hour and a half of the trip. I was like we were driving and I was like, "Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Let's go into it." And then all of a sudden we couldn't see anything. We were like, "Uh-oh." But luckily it blew over, like, the part where we couldn't see anything blew over really quickly.
Did you have to pull over off the side of the road?
We started to, and then the clarity got a little bit better, but it was I see how people get lost in the desert and die because you can't see anything.
Well, here's the good news. You're out of that really cold weather.
We are. It's very exciting, and we have something exciting because Sheila, if you should really be watching on YouTube and not listening to the podcast because Fennec is really cute in the background, my dog laying on the bed. And Sheila also has her puppy with today. She has Rosie. Hi, Rosie.
She's my baby.
Yeah. So the dogs are going to be on today's podcast, everyone. And if you're liking this animal kind of poppin' type of thing, make sure you sign up for Host Week, which is coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I can't remember. The last week in January, because we have a lot of pets that are featured during that. And when you register, there'll also be instructions on how to submit your animal so you can be featured. Well, the animal can be featured on the Host Week landing page. So we hope to see you there. We had 3,000 registrants last year. We're really looking forward. There's tons of great information this year, including in our Host Week magazine. Sheila is writing an article on fraud, which is a super important topic that every advisor should be aware of. But we're going to pop in a link to register for Host Week. But let's get into today's question, Sheila.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. We have one from Deborah M. Deborah says, I have signed up with blank as my host agency, but being very new to travel of this form, I feel I am learning a lot of the marketing. I know it is important, but I'm not learning the program for the booking part and I'm getting frustrated. So am I missing something? Sorry for the rant. The question is it the suppliers that provide the software for booking? I am going the directions of cruises. Let me know. So Sheila, before you started TIS, you were a travel advisor. So you can probably relate to the frustration of coming in and being like, how do I book travel? So what's your advice for Deborah?
Yeah, so that's a really tough one. I know it can be super overwhelming when you first start in the business. As I always tell everybody, I never knew what I was really signing up for. I didn't know I would be expected to know everything about everything on every inch of the earth. And I've been in some pretty big positions in my prior life, and I was never expected to know this. And so I absolutely sympathize with you. I completely understand where you're coming from. I think that there's an expectation that is misaligned when you join a host agency. And I am still booking travel today, and I am also a hosted advisor. But over time, what I learned as a hosted advisor is that the host agency's responsibility, in my view, is to not only provide you with credentials, provide you with a CRM, or what I call a booking commission management system, to help you with a basic framework for setting up your business, for learning the marketing, maybe learning a little bit about becoming a luxury advisor or how to sell cruises. But the truth of the matter is that there are so many systems out there, and it is your business. And it is, I hate to say it, but it really is your job to get in and spend the time to learn how to use the booking tools that are made available to you, whether it's the cruise line booking tool, or if you have a tool that aggregates the different cruise line options or sailing options, or maybe you're using a tool that serves up hotels and it serves up tours and airlines. I know it can feel really, really overwhelming to you when you first start in the industry, but starting any business requires time, it requires commitment, and it requires ongoing learning. So I know, I hear you. It's really overwhelming. I think though that it's really important to understand that a host agency has a role that they serve for you, and take advantage of all of those amazing, amazing opportunities that the host agency provides you. But it really is entirely impossible for our host agencies to train us on every booking system out there. And
Mhm.
I'll further say, because I own a tech company now, the one of the biggest challenges, and we get this a lot from our customers, is, "Hey, can you train us on this CRM? Can you train us on that CRM?" And I'm like, "But we would spend our entire time learning other people's systems so that we could turn around and train you." The technology is changing and it's moving so incredibly fast. So from an internal perspective, like a labor burden and a bandwidth issue, it's really entirely impossible for companies to and their personnel to keep up with everybody else's technology.
It's true. Deborah, like a couple things I would say on that is one, talk to your host agency. I'm not sure if you have already, but I would talk to them and just say, I'm not connecting the dots here on where I'm supposed to be learning about booking, because they can possibly give you some resources.
Mhm,
And in the meantime, like a couple resources, especially since you're focusing on cruises, I would say so CLIA, which is the Cruise Lines Association, they
mhm,
have amazing trainings for their members, and that's a great place for you to learn. They'll have stuff on marketing and everything too, but because all of it's the cruise lines, almost all of the cruise lines in the world belong to it. There's a lot of information on how to do bookings, and CLIA Cruise CLIA Cruise 360 is
mhm,
their annual convention. If you can get down there to go there, you can number one, go on multiple ship inspections when you're there. You can do the in-person trainings, which is
mhm,
super helpful. Meet and network with other advisors where you can learn some tips. We'll also link to our events calendar for you where you can find information. There's usually over 100 events on it, and there'll be things like Cruise 360. Cruise World is something that's put on by Travel Weekly, which is another great resource for you. There'll be ship inspections, things like that that you can check out. And the other thing that I think is really hard, because when the host agency, their host agencies are all going to provide something different in terms of their training, but the suppliers should have something on their booking tools that can train you. They'll usually have some kind of a university or something along those lines that will walk you through their products and booking. So that's something to try to take a look at first. But I would take a look at the resources I gave you. I would talk to your host if you're still like feeling really lost on where that booking takes place. And then a final resource for you is Mary put together this great resource called Travel Agency Booking Basics, because we do hear from a lot of advisors saying it is a little bit confusing. And even if you're going in there and going through the checkout process in a supplier portal, it's a lot of times very similar to what you do as a consumer, but there are certain tricks that travel advisors will use and things they're thinking about as they're going through the checkout process or the sales process in the booking portal. And so, what I would encourage you to do is check out this article on Travel Agent Booking Basics. There's videos in there of advisors that are how they book in some of the main platforms and what their thought process is as they're going through it. And I think you'll find that helpful. The other, well, this resource just popped into my mind, but I worked with ASTA on their roadmap to come in a travel advisor course, which Abby, I'm sorry, I didn't put this in the resources ahead of time. But if you go to har.news/roadmap, that will lead you to the course. And what you can do in there is if you sign up for it, it's a pretty good deal. I think it's like $199 or $149, and it includes a year of ASTA membership. But what's also neat about it is in there are some videos of advisors doing bookings in booking engines. This isn't going to be the end all be all for you, but it might be helpful for you to be able to get inside of some other advisors' minds that are more experienced and seeing what they're doing. So
Well,
hope that helps.
and I also there's also a few other things too, Steph, is you will find some host agencies that are more cruise focused. And so some of those host agencies actually have tools inside of their agency that will assist with booking. And what I mean by that is they're aggregating the inventory of a lot of the cruise lines. So it does make it more simplified for you. I know that Sabre is no longer in the market. I used Sabre. I was kind of sad when Sabre went away because it was an aggregator. And there is a tool out there called Cruise Complete. And it does aggregate a lot of, it aggregates the cruise line inventory. So now you're only utilizing one system. You still need to know what the amenities mean and how to combine certain offers with a particular cabin, but reaching out to your BDM of that particular cruise line will help immensely. They can help guide you through that process fairly easily and quickly. And also, I would encourage you to kind of narrow your focus on maybe a few lines and learn how to use their systems first. And what I'll leave you with as a last point is don't hesitate to just call the cruise line themselves. You have a supplied phone number through your supplier resource portal, and get on the phone with one of those agents and ask them questions and have them help you create the booking for your customer as you're starting to learn how different offers can be paired together. They can quickly go to inventory, etc. So that's another great way to kind of start as you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with utilizing the technology or while you're learning the technology.
Exactly. And one last thing. So our travel agency software profiles, if you go on our site, we'll link to this list, but under tech offered, if you do booking tools, there's a couple that specialize just in cruises, like Sheila had said. So some like you might want to check out that can maybe make the software a little easier for you are Cruise Connect, Cruise House Solutions, Cruisin'. And Cruisin' is actually going to be doing a coffee spot during host week. So if you haven't registered for host week, make sure to register, but then register for Cruisin's coffee spot. It requires separate registration. So Abby, if you wouldn't mind finding the direct link for Cruisin's coffee spot, that would be awesome. But hopefully that helps you out. There's a lot of great resources out there. If your host you're finding isn't giving you what you're needing, make sure to check other host agencies then and ask them what it's like for their support in terms of booking. And you should be able to find someone that can help you. All right, next question. This is a long one, and I might shorten it up a little bit so we can get done in time. But this is from Patty. And Patty, if we don't get to all your questions this week, we will get to them next week. So Patty says, I have been looking into host agencies and trying to find the right solution for my situation. I'm hoping you can provide a little clarity with your expertise. So I want to join a host agency with the hope that someday I can live wherever I want for up to 6 months of the year. Currently lives in Ontario, Canada, and ideally would like to continue her travel sales in retirement. So first question is it possible to continue the travel sales with the residency restrictions, meaning that if she's gone out of Ontario 6 months of the year, is she still able to sell travel because not California, because Canada has some strict regulations similar to the US side seller of travel laws. So Sheila, I know with Travel Industry Solutions, you guys just branched out into Canada. So your team is familiar with these. What's the answer on this question? And then we'll move to the next one.
Yeah. So if you're an advisor and you live in Ontario, and let's say you want to travel for 3 months out of the year, and I'm understanding you want to continue to sell travel to people inside of Canada, inside of Ontario, or whatever that is. Here's the
Hmm.
thing: if you're an independent contractor and you pass the TICO exam, your temporary residency, meaning the country you are visiting for an extended time frame, doesn't matter. The situation is really no different than any other travel advisor who does extensive travel
Which
and
is a
works,
lot of them.
which is a lot of them, right? I mean, look at Angela Hughes, for example. She's on the road 300 days a year. And so, but she's still conducting business while she's on the road. So the situation is no different than any other travel advisor who does extensive travel and works from the road.
Hmm. Yeah, so you should be good to go there. And next question is, in reading more about the seller of travel rules, my understanding that is in Ontario, you need to be TICO certified, and TICO is the Travel Industry Council of Ontario. So you need to be TICO certified to sell travel in Ontario, but you can only sell travel to Ontario residents, and you must be an Ontario resident, which I assume means that even if my main residence is in Ontario, if I'm visiting Italy for 3 months, I cannot sell travel to Ontarians. That's fun. Ontarians while staying in another country for several months out of the year. So, Sheila, what's your team's take on that?
Yeah, so that really just goes back to what I mentioned is that if you are an Ontario resident and you have passed the TICO exam, and Ontario is your permanent residence and you are traveling abroad, you can still sell to your Ontario customers while you're traveling. So if you're living abroad for 6 months,
Yep.
the rules just must be met no matter where the rules must be met based on your home residency, right?
Hmm.
So think of it this way: um, your business address and where you hold your license is what matters, and your residency.
Yep.
So you don't. It's really the same question. It's the question is, I want to be able to travel and I want a portable business. And if I'm a Canadian resident residing in Ontario and I have TICO credentials, and assuming that you're under a host agency, you can travel and you can still conduct business. But you need to meet the rules of where you hold your credentials and your residency.
That's perfect. All right. That was kind of a similar question, except for it had the fun word Ontarians, which I can't wait to use again sometime in my life. So the next question from Patty is, as I started to look into the issue, I found that the US is a little more lax. 100% correct. Americans are not known for their love of rules and regulations. So uh, there are still a few states that require certain licensing, like Florida, California, Hawaii, etc. So if I wanted a portable business, that would be the solution. Would the solution be to connect with a host agency that is US based and accepts Canadians also, so that when I'm traveling abroad, I have the freedom to sell travel to US residents without the restrictions of licensings or where I live for a few months of the year?
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for almost 9 years now, I believe, and now I'm working at it on from a different angle. Here's what I say: based on my time in the industry, I am aware of some Canadian advisors who, in some cases, work under US based host agencies. However, I have personally not investigated this. So, my suggestion to you is to reach out to some US based host agencies that you know of are part of a consortia that work both in Canada and the US. And I'm not sure if the list on HAR of the host agency list delineates that, where their location is, but I would
Mhm.
certainly get on the phone and speak to those host agencies and find out what their rules are. There's some, because there's a little bit of gray area. So you definitely should meet with those host agencies to explore those options. I know it's not the exact answer that you probably wanted to hear. It's just that there's some gray areas, and it's impossible for me to know how each and every host agency works. So that I encourage you to just start by interviewing a few of the larger ones under consortia that are cross border. That would be the best place to start for you. However, I do know of plenty of Canadian agents who sell to US customers.
Yep. Yeah, I've definitely seen that too. For those of you who are listening audioly, I'm just pulling up our host agency list on the site, which we'll link to in our resources in the description. But what you can do is you can look for accepts agents in US or Canada, and you can cross-reference them to see which ones are going to serve both customers. And the reason I would say that it is probably good to do I'm going to remove this now. That it's probably good if you think you're going to be booking quite a few US residents. One, I will say, like, technically there are some regulations you should be following. However, the likelihood legally, a lawyer would be like, don't say this, Stephanie, but I will say this and do this at your own risk. But I will say that Sheila wouldn't say that's because of the tech company that she's in that's dealing with all these legalities. But the chances that someone from Florida is going to know that you booked one of their residency without this regulation, and they're going to come after you, multinational, go to another country, and is very, very low. So you can keep that in mind and do what you want with that. But I would say the reason it's good to have a host that has a Canadian and a US presence is going to be that the suppliers are very different that the Canadian advisors use versus what we here in the US use. There's going to be different things in terms of the currency that's being used. So it's nice. A US client is going to want to pay in US dollars, or actually they might want to pay in Canadian dollars because the exchange rate is crazy right now. So
It's really crazy.
yeah. So
As a
I would
US
suggest
agent now, I do have Canadian customers, and I do have the ability to book them in Canadian dollars with specific suppliers. So,
Mhm.
and they adhere to obviously my terms and conditions of booking because I am based in Florida. So, in the reverse, I have done that for many years. But I would definitely encourage you to reach out, because even with the comparison on HAR, you may not, they may not have quite the information, like that host agency didn't quite provide that level of detail. So you may need to have a conversation with them. But start with the HAR list, do the comparison, and also ask around to some advisors in the community inside of the Facebook groups. Um, you know, from a practical standpoint, just from a practical, like, marketing standpoint, um, I I think you would be harder pressed to garner US customers to a Canadian travel agency. I think US customers will gravitate toward a US based travel agency, just from a practical standpoint.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know what your situation here is, Patty, but some host just announced yesterday or maybe the day before. So Gifted Travel Network is
Mhm.
now was acquired by Travello, which is a
Mhm.
Canadian agency. Nexion has branches in both the US and Canada that you can take a look at. Travel Edge is one that has a presence with both US and Canadian advisors. So those are just a few off the top of my head. But
Ensemble has quite a few. Signature has a couple
oh
of
yeah, on the
them.
consortia
There are
side.
some Virtuoso, which Gifted is part of now. Gifted is Virtuoso, which was now just acquired. And then there's quite a few of them out there that are cross border.
Mhm.
But I would say
And just sorry,
Not
just to
only
clarify.
investigate what their rules are around it, but before you dive in, really think about the practical side of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and just to clarify for you, Patty, with I'm not sure how familiar you are with the industry, but consortia, like the consortia that Sheila mentioned, which is Ensemble and Virtuoso, those are different from host agencies. And you probably wouldn't be able to qualify for them right now because it sounds like you're brand new and you're not going to be able to meet the sales requirements. But what you can do is look on the consortia's profile on the site and see which hosts belong to it if there's
Yes,
a particular consortia that you're looking for.
correct. Yeah, look for the host agencies that are under those consortia.
Yep. Well, perfect. Hopefully that gives you some things to look at. And if you do have other questions, great resources for you are ACTA, which is your national trade organization up there in Canada. And so we'll link to ACTA for you. We'll also link for those that are tuning in Canada and didn't know about these regulations, our article on Canadian regulations, as well as the US regulations for those that are diehards reading legal things.
Yeah, and part of what we're going to be pushing out, because we just entered into Canada with our legal contracts, is we've developed a couple of pages of guidance around the Canadian marketplace for Canadian advisors, and we'll share that too with Steph so she can make any updates on her side to the HAR site. So
Perfect.
we try to collaborate and share where we can so that we can get the information out to everybody as much as we possibly can.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we will go ahead. Once Sheila sends that over, we'll update the description with the resources and put that in as a link. But in the meantime, we are going to link to Travel Industry Solutions website if you're interested in learning more about all of the things that they're doing. They just moved into Canada, as they said, but they do a lot of legal templates, e-signing. Anything else you want to add on that, Sheila?
Credit card vault. We are launching some new technology that is a first in the industry, and we are currently working on our CRM integrations and a host of other stuff: workflows, email templates, forms, guides, you name it.
Yeah, so make sure to sign up to learn more so you can keep updated of everything that they are doing because they are doing a lot. And we will also link to, we have them on our travel agency software list. So you can learn more about them there as well as read reviews from their users. So, coming up in the next Friday 15s for the rest of the month is next week is going to be Dave Meyhofer with Travel Planners. And then after that, we will have Jennifer Dugans with Dugans Travel. And then the week after that, we're going to have Host Week. And I have a surprise, a very big surprise for everybody on who my co host is going to be. And I will be announcing that on January 20th. So keep your eyes open for that exciting news. Sheila, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
I hope
Rosie, thanks for
everybody has an
joining us.
awesome year this year. I mean, I think it's off to an amazing start so far.
It is. It is. Snowstorms, blizzards. It's going to be a party this year. I'm going to be a hot mess by the end of it. Well, thank you again, Sheila, and thank all of you for joining us for this Friday 15. We'd love to get your questions. If you have some, you can submit them by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15, and we will get to your questions. And don't forget to sign up for Host Week. It is a blast and a lot of fun. So have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time. Bye. Good